Price levels, nominal, and real GDP, part of our lectures on gross domestic product. In this video, we're going to discuss how our measures of GDP include prices, and then how we can filter those prices out of our calculations of GDP. Also, how we can get a more consistent view of the three things that we're looking at, and also how these prices filtered out from the GDP lead to our first index, the GDP deflator. So in a previous video, you learned this formula for calculating GDP in that this is the expenditure formula, that the gross domestic product equals consumption plus government spending plus investment plus net exports. And I want to just expand that by showing you that this also includes the prices of each. So the price level of consumption times the quantity of consumption, and the price level of government spending times the quantity of government spending, and the price level of investment times the quantity of investment, and the price level of net exports times the quantity of net exports. The thing about these price levels are actually all the same, so that they are all actually equal. And so we can simplify this a little bit because we don't need prices to be a function of each individual part. All we have is that the prices, the GDP nominal calculation is the price level times the quantity of consumption, the price level times government spending, the price level times the amount of investment, and the price level times net exports. Now, you know from algebra, if that P is in every single one of those terms, we can just factor that out of the GDP calculation and just have prices and then a parenthesis and then times all of these things. So we as economists don't often use the price level. We don't want to mix the GDP up with the price level. So instead, we would like to think about GDP as being abstracted from prices so that the prices don't really matter as much. We just really want to know about how much consumption, how much government spending in consistent terms across time or in consistent ways across countries. So if we take the nominal GDP, which is the GDP with prices included, which is the formula I showed you on the previous slide, and then divide that by the price level, we get another version of GDP. We call this real GDP. And so real GDP is the gross domestic product with constant prices, the price levels factored out. I'm not very good at mnemonics, but here are a couple. When you think about nominal GDP, it means sort of not adjusted for price levels. And if you think about real GDP, it's what we're really interested in, which is the thing without the price level. Once we know what these things are, we can do some algebra with them. That nominal is the real times the price levels. And as we saw earlier, the nominal divided by the prices is the real. But we can also divide the nominal by the real and get a price index. That means we can say, okay, well, the price level in 2010 is this, and the price level in 2015 is this. And if we have prices in both of those years, we can then sort of adjust those prices to get a consistent idea of how much something costs. So this, when we take the nominal GDP and divide it by the real GDP to get the price levels, we call that the GDP deflator. And the deflator formula, which you saw a preview of in a previous slide, is the nominal GDP divided by the real GDP times 100. So what we do here is we come up with this deflator, and that allows us a measure of consistency. So here's the mnemonic again. Okay, so this is our first example of a price index. We'll see a couple more examples in these last couple weeks of our class. To use the deflator, we would need a base year. And in that base year, the real prices and the nominal prices are the same. So let's say we wanted to look at the prices in 2010 and the 2015. We could call 2010 the base year, and that's going to be the base year. And then we can look at the index divided by 100 and get the price in 2015. Here's another example. We think about Henry Ford's Model T, the Ford Model T. It was the first affordable automobile, and in 1915, it cost $390. Now, how affordable was $390? It's hard for us to tell. It's not equal to $390 today because the value of a dollar back then is very different than a value of a dollar today. Something we'll find out in our inflation video coming up soon. So if we take 1915 as the base year, then the GDP deflator in 2018 is 1,825.1. If we plug that into this formula that we have at the top, that's going to equal a little over $7,000. So as we can see, the Model T was very affordable. It's more affordable than any new car today. So that's one of the reasons why it was so successful. It was because it was cheap enough for a lot of people to buy it. So another example of an index we'll get to in a future video, which is purchasing power parity, and that's how we compare GDP across countries. There are other price indices besides the GDP deflator that compare prices over time, and so this might not be the right one to use, but it really, for non-economists, it doesn't really matter which index you use as long as you use one, as long as you don't say that $300 in 1915 is the same as $300 in 2020. That's definitely not true. So any index that you use is going to get you approximately the right answer. And so just remember to use an index. Don't need to remember that which index is better for which. I need to know that, but you don't need to know that. So to summarize, prices vary over time, and output and consumption vary over time. We really want to focus on the latter, the changes in output and consumption. So we filter out the prices from nominal GDP to get to real GDP. And the GDP deflator, there's a typo in here, is just one example of an index. Thank you.